routine visit to the bank turns into something Monica Fields never saw coming. What should have been a simple transaction spirals into a moment that leaves the entire room silent. As tensions rise and hidden truths unfold, one question remains. Who's really in control here? Let us know in the comments section below. Monica Fields walked into the Sterling Heights Bank, her heels clicking against the glossy marble floor. She carried herself with effortless grace, dressed in a sharp navy blue blazer and tailored slacks that hugged her tall frame just right. A gold watch gleamed on her wrist, understated but expensive, a quiet testament to the years she had spent climbing the corporate ladder. She moved with purpose toward the counter, her brown leather purse nestled in the crook of her arm. The scent of freshly brewed coffee lingered in the air, mixing with the artificial coolness of the bank's air conditioning. A handful of customers milled about, some seated in plush chairs waiting for their appointments, others standing in line, checking their phones with glazed-over expressions. At first, no one paid her any mind. She glanced up at the digital clock above the tellers. 3:45 p.m. Good. She had just enough time to make her withdrawal and pick up her son Xavier from basketball practice. She was thinking about what to cook for dinner when she finally approached the counter. A woman with cropped blonde hair and thin-rimmed glasses barely glanced at Monica before turning her attention back to her screen. The nameplate on the desk read Heather Wallace, Senior Teller. Monica cleared her throat, offering a polite smile. "Good afternoon. I'd like to make a withdrawal." Heather sighed, adjusting her glasses. "Account number?" Monica reached into her purse, pulled out her bank card, and slid it across the counter. Heather barely touched it, holding it between two fingers like it was something disposable. Her nails, painted a dull beige, tapped impatiently against the keyboard as she typed in the details. There was a brief pause. Heather's brows lifted slightly. "This is quite a large amount," she muttered, her tone shifting. "Yes," Monica said simply. Heather peered at her, and for the first time actually looked at her. Monica saw the hesitation flash across her face. Just a flicker, but it was there. "I'll need to see some ID," Heather said. Monica nodded, already expecting that. She retrieved her driver's license and handed it over. Heather took it, examining it for a second longer than necessary. The skepticism in her eyes was subtle, but Monica had seen it before. Heather glanced between the ID and the screen again, then back at Monica. "And what's the reason for this withdrawal?" Monica's smile barely wavered. "I wasn't aware I needed to provide one." Heather let out a small, forced chuckle. "Oh no, of course not. It's just, we have security measures in place for large transactions." "Understood," Monica said, still composed. "I'd still like to proceed." Heather hesitated, then turned to another teller, a man in his early 30s, tall and lanky, his nameplate reading Daniel. She leaned toward him, whispering something. Daniel's eyes flickered toward Monica, then back at Heather. He smirked, shaking his head. Monica exhaled slowly. "Here we go." Heather straightened, clearing her throat. "One moment, please," she said, before stepping away. Monica watched as she disappeared through a door marked Manager's Office. She could feel it now, the shift in the atmosphere. The older man in a brown tweed jacket standing behind her in line subtly leaned to get a better look at her. A young woman near the loan desks glanced up from her phone, her curiosity piqued. Even the security guard by the entrance adjusted his stance. It was subtle, but Monica knew what was happening. She had seen it before. People didn't expect her, a black woman dressed in tailored elegance, exuding quiet confidence, to be withdrawing that much money. She could hear the unspoken questions humming beneath the surface. Does she really have that kind of money? Is she scamming someone? Where did she even get that much? Monica remained still, keeping her expression neutral. Years of navigating boardrooms, executive meetings, and being the only black woman in high-power spaces had taught her one thing: never let them see you flinch. The door to the office creaked open, and Heather returned, followed by a stocky man in his 50s. His tie was slightly crooked, and his thinning hair did little to soften the patronizing expression on his face. His name tag read, Martin Hayes, branch manager. "Ms. Fields, is it?" Martin greeted with a rehearsed smile. "Yes," Monica responded smoothly. "We just need to verify a few things before proceeding with your request," Martin continued. "Would you mind stepping aside for a moment?" Monica's fingers tightened slightly around the strap of her purse. "I'd prefer to handle this transaction here." Martin's smile didn't reach his eyes. "It's just a standard security measure. I'm sure you understand." Monica held his gaze, then glanced at the tellers. Heather had a smugness about her now, as if she had already decided how this was going to end. "I'd like to clarify something," Monica said, her voice even. "Am I being questioned about my own money?" Martin's smile faltered. "Oh, no, ma'am, not at all. We just—" "Then process the withdrawal," Monica cut in. A few heads turned now. People were listening. Martin sighed, shifting on his feet. "You must understand, large cash withdrawals raise red flags. Even when the account belongs to a long-standing client with no history of suspicious activity." Martin blinked. "We have protocols that didn't seem to apply to the man before me who walked out of here with a cashier's check." Silence. Heather and Daniel exchanged a glance. Martin exhaled sharply. "Ma'am, I need you to calm down." There it was, the phrase that had been weaponized against black people for decades. Monica tilted her head slightly. "I am calm," she said, her voice controlled, deliberate. "I'm simply asking why I'm being treated differently." Martin opened his mouth, but no words came out. The room felt tighter now. The security guard shifted uneasily. And then something unexpected happened. A soft ding echoed from above. Monica looked up. The camera. A small red light blinked, indicating that it was very much recording. Martin hesitated, his eyes flicking toward the ceiling, then back at Monica. And just like that, the dynamic shifted. Because Monica wasn't just another customer anymore. She was a witness to something much, much bigger than a simple withdrawal. And someone, somewhere, was watching. The air inside the bank had changed. The quiet murmur of conversations from customers waiting in line had faded, replaced by the undeniable weight of something happening. Monica Fields knew that feeling well. It was the same feeling she had walking into certain boardrooms, where she was underestimated before even opening her mouth. The moment where people who had already made up their minds about her suddenly found themselves scrambling when she didn't fit their expectations. But this wasn't just a misunderstanding. It was an assumption that a black woman withdrawing a large amount of money must be doing something wrong. She kept her breathing steady as she stood at the counter, eyes locked onto Martin Hayes, the branch manager. He had started sweating, his gaze darting from her to the blinking red light of the security camera above them. Heather, the teller, wasn't smiling anymore. Her amusement had turned into something else. Uncertainty. Monica knew what she was thinking. Did we go too far? But it was too late. "Miss Fields," Martin started again, his voice smoother now, as if he were trying to ease himself out of a corner. "Let's not make a scene. I just need to confirm a few details, and then we can move forward with your transaction." "Confirm them here," Monica said. "I have no problem answering questions, but I won't be treated differently than any other customer who has come here today." Martin's jaw tightened. There was no easy way out of this for him, not with the eyes now on them. A woman in a floral dress, standing near the loan offices, had stopped pretending to scroll through her phone and was watching openly now. A man in a business suit at the far end of the room frowned slightly, as if unsure whether to get involved. Even the security guard near the door looked uneasy. A slow realization was beginning to settle over the bank. They know they messed up. Martin straightened his tie, feigning control. Ms. Fields, I'd be happy to accommodate your request, but I must ensure we're following protocol. We have fraught concerns. Monica raised a brow. Fraught concerns? Her voice was calm. Too calm. Martin hesitated, then cleared his throat. Yes, for large withdrawals we have to verify identity. You already have my ID. We also need to understand the nature of the withdrawal. You didn't ask the man before me why he was taking out his money. Silence. Heather shifted, casting a quick glance at Martin. Miss Fields, please. Please, what? Monica interrupted, her voice still controlled but sharp now. Sit back and accept this treatment? Should I just nod along while you assume I don't belong here? Martin's face paled. I never said that. You didn't have to, Monica shot back. The bank was silent now. Heather had stopped typing. Daniel, the other teller, had taken a small step back from the counter. And then came the next move Monica knew was coming. Martin let out a breath, lowering his voice now. Ma'am, he said, adopting a new, softer tone. I'm only doing my job. If you just come with me, we can sort this out in private. Private, behind a closed door. Where the camera wouldn't see. Where there would be no witnesses. Monica had seen this tactic before. It was the same way people were silenced, where they were made to feel like the problem was them, not the system that kept treating them differently. She squared her shoulders. I'd rather stay here, she said firmly. Martin exhaled sharply, glancing toward the security guard by the door. It was the subtlest thing, a flicker of his gaze, a barely there nod. And the guard moved, just one step closer. Monica felt it before she saw it. A shift in the air. Oppression. A warning. Don't push too far. Monica inhaled slowly. A few years ago, she might have backed down at this point. Maybe she would have nodded, forced a tight smile, and followed Martin into his office just to avoid the tension, just to avoid the situation escalating. But today she wasn't moving. She wasn't making it easier for them to pretend this wasn't happening. And then, the door to the private offices near the back swung open. A man stepped out, tall, mid-40s, dressed in a perfectly tailored charcoal gray suit. His movements were deliberate, each step filled with quiet authority. A moment passed before the realization dawned. The name tag clipped to his suit jacket read, Matthew Calloway, CEO. And he was watching. Martin turned abruptly, visibly startled. Mr. Calloway, what's going on here? His voice was calm, but there was something underneath it. A quiet edge. Martin swallowed hard. It's just a minor issue, sir, he said quickly. A standard security check for a high withdrawal amount. The CEO's gaze flicked toward Monica. She met his eyes, unwavering. Matthew Calloway studied her for a beat too long. And then, process her request. The words were measured, deliberate. Martin stiffened. Sir, You heard me, Calloway said, his voice still eerily calm. She's a client, is she not? Martin's lips parted slightly, as if searching for an argument that no longer existed. Calloway waited. The entire bank waited. And then, reluctantly, stiffly, Martin turned back to Heather. Process the withdrawal, he muttered. Heather's hands shook slightly as she started typing again. Monica didn't move, didn't speak, didn't blink. She simply waited as the transaction was finalized. When Heather finally pushed the stack of cash across the counter, Monica took it without a word. Then, calmly, steadily, she looked at Martin. He looked at Heather. Then finally back to Calloway. She nodded once, then turned and walked out. As she stepped onto the sidewalk, the weight in her chest slowly eased. Because now she knew this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. And someone inside that bank was about to answer for it. Monica Fields didn't look back as she walked out of Sterling Heights Bank, but she could feel their eyes on her. The weight of what had just happened sat heavy on her chest, but she kept moving, her heels clicking against the sidewalk with the same sharp precision as before. She had gotten her money. That wasn't the point anymore. This wasn't just about her. It was about the next black woman who walked into that bank, the next person who wouldn't have the confidence, the experience, or the ability to push back the way she had. It was about the fact that this kept happening. She reached her car, gripping the handle tighter than necessary before sliding into the driver's seat. She placed the envelope of cash in her purse and sat there for a long moment, staring through the windshield. Then, slowly, she reached for her phone. Her thumb hovered over her contacts before she found the name she needed. It rang 3 times before a voice answered. "Monica?" She exhaled. "Hey, Carter. You busy?" Her brother's voice was instantly alert. "What's wrong?" Monica hesitated, staring at her own reflection in the rearview mirror. She could let it go. She could move on, deposit the money later, and forget the entire incident. But she wouldn't. Not this time. "I need a favor," she said. There was no hesitation. "Name it." Monica glanced back at the bank. The doors had closed behind her, but she knew that inside they were still talking about her. "Meet me at my office," she said. "I have something you need to see." 30 minutes later, Monica sat behind her desk, watching Carter pace the length of her office. Her younger brother had always been the fiery one, where she had learned how to hold her composure, how to let people underestimate her and then shock them into silence. Carter had never played that game. And right now, he was furious. "So let me get this straight," he said, voice tight. "You go to the bank, your bank, the one you've been using for years, and they treat you like a damn criminal?" Monica kept her voice even. "Yes." And then, after all of that, the CEO himself had to come out just to get them to do their job? "Yes." Carter exhaled, shaking his head. "This is what I'm talking about," he muttered. "It doesn't matter how successful we are, how much money we make. They still see us the same way." Monica had no argument for that, because he was right. Carter stopped pacing, leaning against her desk. His hands were still clenched into fists. "What do you want to do?" he asked. Monica didn't answer right away. She had already thought about it. Thought about all the options. She could file a complaint, go through the proper channels. She could put pressure on the bank's corporate office, demand a meeting. But none of that would change what had already happened. What she needed, what she wanted, was something bigger. So she pulled out her phone, tapped the screen a few times, and pressed play. The video wasn't long, maybe a minute and a half. But it was enough. Carter watched in silence as the footage played. Monica standing at the counter. Heather's dismissive attitude. The moment Martin appeared, his condescending tone clear, even without sound. And then, the way the security guard moved. The way the shift happened. The silent warning that came with it. By the time the video ended, Carter's jaw was tight. He looked at Monica. "Who sent this to you?" "Someone inside the bank," she said simply. That was the part that mattered. Because whoever had leaked the footage, they wanted this to be seen. Carter shook his head. "This is bad," he muttered. Monica tilted her head. "For who?" Carter let out a humorless laugh. "For them." He leaned forward, his expression serious now. "Mon, you realize what you have here, right?" She did. "Then what's the next move?" he asked. Monica exhaled. She had always been careful, always been measured. But this wasn't just about her anymore. She looked at Carter. "We go public." The response was instant. Monica knew the power of social media, but she still hadn't been prepared for the explosion that followed. She hadn't even posted the video herself. Someone else had. And by the time she woke up the next morning, it was everywhere. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, thousands of comments, thousands of shares. Bank staff humiliates black woman over legal withdrawal. CEO forced to step in. Sterling Heights Bank under fire after alleged racial discrimination incident. Security cameras catch what staff didn't want you to see. The headlines kept coming, and then so did the fallout. Sterling Heights Bank was in full damage control by noon. Their official statement was predictable. We take all customer complaints seriously and are conducting a full internal review of our security policies to ensure fairness and integrity in all transactions. Monica snorted when she read it. It was textbook. Carefully worded, saying nothing while pretending to say everything. Carter leaned back in his chair, reading over her shoulder. So, translation, we got caught, and now we're scrambling. Pretty much. He glanced at her. And what's the CEO saying? Monica exhaled. She didn't know yet, but she was about to find out. Because her phone buzzed at that exact moment, a new number flashing across the screen. She answered. Monica Fields speaking. A pause. Then, Ms. Fields, it's Matthew Calloway, the CEO. Monica leaned back in her chair, already knowing what was coming. She had a choice now. She could let them handle this their way, or she could make sure they handled it the right way. She smiled slightly. Mr. Calloway, she said smoothly, I was wondering when you'd call. The silence on the other end of the call lasted a second too long. Then, a carefully measured voice. Miss Fields, Matthew Calloway said, his tone smooth, deliberate. I assume you've seen the headlines. Monica leaned back in her chair, fingers drumming lightly on the armrest. I have. A sigh. It was subtle, but she caught it. I'd like to meet with you, he continued, today if possible, in person. Monica glanced at the time on her phone. Barely past noon. Where? She asked. My office. I believe we have a few things to discuss. A few things. That was an understatement. I'll be there in an hour. She ended the call before he could say anything else. Carter, who had been watching from across the desk, lifted a brow. Well, Monica stood, smoothing her blazer. Looks like we have a meeting. The corporate headquarters of Sterling Heights Bank was a different world from the branch she had walked into the day before. The receptionist greeted her with immediate politeness. A young assistant guided her to the executive floor. By the time she stepped into the sleek, glass-walled office at the end of the hall, Matthew Calloway was already waiting. He stood as she entered, his suit perfectly pressed, expression unreadable. Miss Fields, he said. Monica met his gaze evenly. Mr. Calloway. He gestured to the chair in front of his desk. Please, have a seat. She didn't. I'll stand. A flicker of something. Surprise. Respect. Crossed his face before he nodded and sat back down. First, let me say I regret what happened to you at our branch, he began. It was unacceptable. Monica folded her arms. It was more than unacceptable, it was systemic. Calloway exhaled. Which is exactly why I wanted to meet with you. He slid a folder across the desk. Monica didn't pick it up. Instead, she waited. Inside is a full breakdown of what we've done since yesterday, he explained. The employees involved have been placed on immediate suspension pending further review. We're initiating an internal audit of all recent high-value transaction requests to identify patterns of discrimination. Monica tilted her head. And? Calloway hesitated for half a second. Then, and we'd like to invite you to work with us in an advisory role, he said, to help implement new policies and training protocols, to be a part of making sure this doesn't happen again. That was the part she had been waiting for. Not just an apology, not just damage control, but accountability. Ail me? She asked. Calloway's expression didn't change. Because I think you're the exact person who won't let us get away with half measures. Monica exhaled, considering him. She had spent her career navigating spaces like this. Rooms full of powerful men who knew how to say the right things, who knew how to appear open to change without actually doing the work. But this wasn't just about a corporate initiative. This was about power. Who had it, and who was finally taking it back. She reached for the folder, flipped it open, breathed. Then, slowly, she nodded. 2 weeks later, the headlines had changed. Bank implements sweeping anti-discrimination policies following viral incident. Former client joined Sterling Heights leadership team to overhaul equity practices. A new standard for accountability in corporate banking. Monica had expected the backlash. The usual voices trying to spin the narrative. This is just doing this for attention. They're only making changes because they got caught. This won't actually fix anything. But she had also seen something else. The emails. The messages from people who had been through the same thing but never had a camera to capture it. The quiet gratitude from others who now knew they weren't alone. And more than anything, the knowledge that she had forced a change. Not just for herself, but for every black woman, every black person who had ever been told they didn't belong in spaces they had every right to occupy. She stepped into her new office on the executive floor, placing her bag down on the desk. A knock on the door. Carter leaned against the frame, arms crossed. "So," he said, smirking, "how does it feel being the person who changed an entire damn bank?" Monica smiled. "It's just the beginning." And she meant it.